Aloha. Thank you for the gift of your time in joining us today. Today, Governor Josh Green, alongside Hawaii Department of Transportation Director Ed Sniffen and Colonel Steve McGonigal, U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii Commander, will announce the new details of a new lease agreement for KAWAIHΑPAI Airfield, formerly known as Dillingham Airfield. Without further ado, facilitated questions and answers will follow promptly after remarks conclude, and formal bill signing will commence shortly thereafter. Now, without further ado, it is my privilege to introduce to you Governor Josh Green.
Aloha. So this is a specific focus press conference to talk about something very important that's finally happened. Now, for years, we've been wrestling with how to deal with what was formerly called Dillingham Airfield because it's important to us. And there are 26 businesses there. It's a complicated situation. There are water needs, and there are responsibilities that we've been honored to work with the military on, the Army on. Their leadership has been invaluable to us, and so we inherited this challenge. You know, as Lieutenant Governor, I had a couple conversations, went up with our congressperson at the time. We all got together and we knew that we owed people in that part of our county and our state a solution. So we started negotiations with the Army back a ways, about a decade ago, but we didn't have the exceptional Colonel Steve, perhaps, in that moment. The two sides were pretty far apart, actually, to renew the lease. And that lease is important, like I said. So we thought it was significant. We had exceptional help. Thank you, Donovan. Thank you for that. You know, you and Senate members and House members who came together and encouraged us to push forward on this. We deployed really our star in this case, which was Director Ed Sniffen. And, you know, we went back and forth a lot on how to make a fair lease, how to protect that area, and to also make sure people are responsible for the things that they're good at. So I'm really happy and proud to announce that after long, intense negotiations, we're announcing a 50-year lease today, which ensures that the continued operation of the airfield will happen. It's very important to North Shore folk, I can tell you. And also we give the HDOT, Department of Transportation, the ability to do long-term planning. It's important because when you have resources that are semi-finite and that we have to constantly, we've got to talk to Kyle and Donovan and their teams about, we don't want to spend good money after bad if we don't have a real plan. So we owed it to the legislature also. So this is great news, I believe, for the 26 tenants and their employees who work in the airfield. Really exceptional operations. I went and actually spent time with them over the years to see what they're doing. There's a lot of aviation, obviously, right there, all sorts of interesting businesses. In addition to this, the team found a solution to ensure that water service is going to continue for the tenants and the 30 nearby water users, which includes the YMCA's Camp Erdman. I mean, that is really important. That's, something that touches everyone's heart. The Beach Park, DLNR, Department of Ag, and some residents, some people that are living there. Okay, so it's kind of out of the way, but it's touching a lot of people's lives. So I want to mahalo and congratulate Colonel Steve and your team at the Army Garrison. Thank you, brother, for that. Lieutenant Colonel Peavy also, I think, was important from the Army Corps of Engineers. Sniffen is just, killing it for us, which is fantastic. Thank you, brother, for that. Really, his trip, and I said this a little bit briefly, his trip, I believe, to D.C., and we've asked the director to take a larger role in our administration to deal with infrastructure because we have this, large amount of resource coming from the federal government on infrastructure. This was a part of that. So by asking him humbly to do that work for us, it's working. Also, as I shared, our legislative colleagues, if they weren't doing this and supporting this kind of deal, we couldn't really function. So government gets criticized for bureaucracy. I get it. 10 years in the making. Our team did it in 19 months. Today is our 19-month anniversary of being in this office, and I'm just grateful that we're seeing some results today. So thank you, everybody, and I will turn it back over to our MC.
Mahalo, Governor Green. Now please welcome Ed Sniffen, Director of the Hawaii Department of Transportation.
Hello, everybody. Ed Sniffen with Hawaii DOT. Just really proud to be here today after a decade of work with the Army to finally get to terms to make sure that we can keep KAWAIHΑPAI open. And it came down to the wire to make sure that we could move this forward without the lease actually ending before we could move forward. I give a lot of credit to the Army. The difficulty in the past has always been the authorities for the local structures for the Army could only give us a 5-year extension every time. It took Colonel McGonigal going up the chain to ensure that we would get the 50 years from DC to ensure that we could move forward with a plan that actually works. And I need the plan because anytime I go in front of WAM or finance, I'm always asked, if you could spend money here, what's the plan? And we couldn't have one unless we had that long term. The way our grant assurances work with the FAA, once we get a grant in an area, we need to guarantee that we'll fulfill those grants for the next 20 years. With a 5-year lease, it's impossible. With a 50-year, we can put 30 years of funding into that area to ensure that we can rebuild that airfield, to make it better for everybody. To touch the 26 tenants that we have in that area, the 130 employees that they have in that area, and to help out the 30 customers of the water service that are in that zone. This is just one of the partnerships that we're building with the Army. They're also working with us on Kole Pass to ensure that we have an emergency access out of the leeward coast in that area should we need it. And working with us on the Daniel K. Inouye Highway extension on the Big Island, trying to see how we work together to share that cost that'll benefit both the public and the military there. So really appreciate you, Colonel McGonigal, going to bat for us in DC, making sure that we can push forward on this agreement so we can plan out how we use this airfield in the future. Governor, really appreciate the leadership on this one. He made it very clear. Let's get this done. Let's get this moving so we can get everybody the sense of consistency that they need to run their businesses in that area. To our legislators, really appreciate you all being involved in ensuring that we can move this forward from the economic perspective. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mahalo, Director Sniffen. Now please join me in welcoming Colonel Steve McGonigal, Commander of U.S. Army Garrison, Hawaii.
Thank you. Aloha and good afternoon. Mahalo, Governor, for being here today, and Director Stiffen. Really appreciate it. So I'm just going to start with a couple of thanks because although I'm standing here today, it really is the hard work of a lot of the civilians that work in the Garrison team, along with the United States Army Corps of Engineers team that were able to, on the Army side, come up with some creative solutions which got us away from the conversation of the last 10 years and understanding what we couldn't and sitting down, talking, understanding each other, and finding out what we can do. And that is really the great part of today is our local elected officials setting up those forums and helping to participate so that we can truly understand the needs of all those involved, understand the community needs, understand where the Department of Transportation is coming from. And then once we have that common understanding, we're able to formulate a solution and pick it up and move forward together. And that is absolutely critical. So out of today, a lot of thanks to the team that supported this in the background. But important to us is the understanding it's community and understanding, and that's what allows us to form that partnership where we can move difficult subjects that have sort of stymied us for a decade very quickly in the span of really a year, thanks to the leadership, inspired leadership in the state and our local elected officials, solve a decades-long problem and deliver something that's a benefit for the community, and that airfield can continue to serve its purposes on the North Shore and also support military training when needed. So really a great win-win, and that's what we can do when we move forward together. So thank you both for your leadership.
Thank you, Colonel McGonigal. We will now take questions from the media, if any.
Our first question is from Nikki, KHON2.
Easy one. Is there a cost associated with this?
Actually, no. There's no cost associated with this. The great thing about this is it was a mutual benefit for all of us involved in this. And it'll help us make sure that the airfield itself, after we put improvements into it with federal funds, can be self-sufficient. Right now, that airfield costs us between $1 million to $1.5 million a year that has to be funded by Honolulu Airport. So now we can start building everything out to ensure that that airport can be self-sufficient.
I think so. I think there's even a savings because I think that the economic impact was going to be significant. I appreciated, Senator Dela Cruz, Rep. Peruso, constantly telling us that, it was going to damage the economy of the North Shore if we lost people. They were really passionate stars for their community, and so that was big. And then also, this thing was getting sticky, and I didn't want us to get sued, frankly. So after many, many phone calls, I finally was able to share with Ed, just hammer this one, because it had drifted long enough. So thank you, guys.
Our next question comes from Marcel, Civil Beat.
Yeah, either for Ed or Colonel McGonigal, if you guys can explain how the water operation is going to work, given that DOT, as I understand it, cannot handle that, and there was a whole crunch as to who would take that over.
Yeah, I'll start it, and I'll ask Steve to take it over afterwards, because they did quite a bit of work to make sure that we could take care of this. First and foremost, I should say that we let the community know there was going to be no point that we would turn the water off. We had to send letters out to the community to let them know that something's going to change, because the DOT cannot be responsible for the water anymore. And that was because of our FAA grant assurances. We worked with the Army to ensure that we could get a purveyor on board. Worked with Ben Devine, who was absolutely a star in helping us out in getting the information from the community to us. And Aqua Engineers stepped forward. They are being licensed by the Army to run the Army system to not only service the airfield itself, but also the 30 off-system users of the system that's out there right now. And Steve.
No, thank you. That's a good question, a point. That was one of the ones where we were stuck on can't. And sitting down and understanding what the positions were, we said, well, what are our options and what are the cans? And then, like you said, Ben Devine stepping in and come up with some creative solutions. And then Aqua really stepping in and saying that we'll take this system on, and being able to separate that water system from the lease, because DOT couldn't continue to maintain that and still have FAA grants. So it was creative solutions, and I'll tell you, there was a moment when we were in the meetings like, well, we could do this, but nobody knew the path and where we would end at the very final, but working together. And with Aqua, really appreciate that business coming on board, allows us to continue to serve the community and keep that airfield functioning properly. So again, it was just a moment of uncertainty, but a great solution in the end.
Mahalo.
That underscores kind of our general approach is that we're in charge, so we can make rules as long as they don't offend the legislature if a solution has to happen. So that's what we're doing a lot of. We've had to do a lot of that work with Maui, of course, with the crisis, and help a lot of people. But these are one-off problems. The contracts we had, for the Department of, for tourism contracts and Hawaii Tourism Authority, a lot of these solutions are out there. You just have to get people to be slightly less uptight about things. Yes.
Our next question. Ashley with Hawaii Public Radio.
What are some of the main improvements you guys are looking at making to that property? And then also, when it comes to the water management, I know the FAA had said originally that it was not properly maintained, and so that's why DOT couldn't take it over. What's being done to bring those up to code, and do they need to be?
So for the airfield itself, we're going to be going through a master planning process, and that's required for every airfield that we make improvements on. There are things like runway improvements, terminal improvements, and hangar improvements that are absolutely necessary in that area. Those hangar improvements could include fire protection and the like. So it's a lot of work that has to be done going through the master planning process first. And second, on the water system itself, there were quite a bit of leaks when we came into office that were noticed in the system. The system was losing about 1 million gallons per month at one time. FAA had let us know that we couldn't put money into the system because it would be a diversion of funds, but we did it anyway. There's no way we're going to allow 1 million gallons of water to be lost from our system a month. It just doesn't work. So we worked with the FAA to make sure that we could justify the use in that area. Now, the system itself, when we start moving forward, there are going to be upgrades based on metering for the different users of the system. There's going to be upgrades to pipes that are off the airport system that weren't repaired as part of our work. But to assist with that, we're working with the military on a DSIP grant. I forget what it means, so you gotta help out on that one. And that grant will allow us to get a bulk of funding to not only upgrade the system, but upgrade its uses as well. It'll include a dip tank that will allow the military to use a helicopter to pick up water from the tank to help out with fire suppression in the area. So it's all going to be good things for the community.
Thank you. So it's a defense community infrastructure project, and that's where there's federal grants that serve not only military interests, but also the community and occur off the installations that are military controlled. In this case, the lease allows that investment on Dillingham Airfield. And it will bring resilience to that system. And then, as the director mentioned, it'll also bring in a dip tank, which it sounds like an odd word, but it's really a large pool of water. And both Army aircraft as well as Honolulu Fire Department aircraft can use that as a fresh water point for fighting wildfires throughout the North Shore area. So right now, they will often have to dip out of the ocean, and that salt water is a challenge. It's sometimes harmful on plants and vegetation, and much better to have that freshwater source. So it's another example where we looked at, there was a problem with the water system, and we said, well, what is the solution space, and where can we work together to fix and find a solution? And we came upon the DSIP grant program, where if we would work together, the community could nominate the project, we come in and explain the military benefit, and then we can deliver a quality product that not only benefits the airfield, but also helps reduce risks on the North Shore.
And what Colonel said is not just accurate, but also part of our grander strategy, which is as we work closer and have needs across our state, but as we work closer with the military, we want to make sure that it's benefiting everyone. And so this was a really nice example of partnership with the Army, help protect our community, and I hope that we'll continue to kind of revisit this approach as we talk about the much larger questions that we have as we address the leases, as we address our solutions with the Navy, your best friends, right? So these are moments where we can actually benefit by working together, and I think the North Shore, at least in this case, is going to be very pleased with the solution.
One more quick follow-up from Ashley.
Sorry, just to clarify about when DOT fixed the leaks on the water system, that was using federal grants still or state monies?
That was using state monies, but the state airport's monies come from landing fees. So it's FAA generally controlled.
It was essentially a sprinkler system from hell until they fixed it. So got to protect fresh water where we can. Okay. So we'll just wrap by saying special mahalos in this case to the Army and its leadership, Department of Transportation, and then the community of local legislators who really backed us all the way to get this done. So another one down, and we will see you in a couple hours. Take care.